let's do Mostert. Yeah.
Okay.
Raheem Mostert, he's in a contract year. He's almost 30. He's a legendary playoff performer. He really does average 5 yards a carry for his career. I mean, the primary job of a running back is to run the ball, and he's excellent at it. It's just that he's getting old and he's gotten hurt a lot and he's running out of time. If he misses time this year for any reason, he's not going to get the contract next year, and he may not even get many more opportunities to carry the ball. The Niners could replace him. But if he fulfills all the promise that he showed 2 years ago, he could get this. He could benefit from the same logic that Ferret would benefit from: fresh legs. He's still he's younger than his age. He could get a ton of money from maybe not the Niners, but some other team, the Rams. Who knows?
Yeah, and the thing is that everybody talks about the injuries with Raheem Mostert, and a lot of people try to throw the Shanahan system at him as a negative. I think that he kind of elevates that system. If you let me make my point real quick, so it's really, I think that he gets slept on with his vision. He's so good at seeing the hole, and then the speed hitting it is what is like separating him. So even if you go back to last year, he's the only running back to have a 60-yard touchdown reception or larger than 60-yard. Okay, did that like on like the first drive. You fast forward to the Jets game, first play to the crib. He even had a touchdown call back, a longer one. Like
that is true.
This is how good he is when he's on the field. Like this is legit how good he is. But get.
Oh, I was going to add to that. I mean, it's the vision and then the decisiveness. It's like we talk about those things with quarterbacks, and we complain about them with Jimmy Garoppolo. He doesn't see it. He doesn't pull the trigger. He hesitates. Raheem Mostert doesn't do that as a running back. And Tevin Coleman did. I felt on the 49. He didn't always see it quickly. He didn't always hit it when he should. And I asked Kyle Juszczyk, like, Kyle, what is it about Raheem Mostert that makes him good? And he's like, he's decisive. He doesn't second guess himself. He hits it and he sees it correctly. So those two things together make him he's not flashy, although it's flashy when he's 40, 50 yards down the field, but he's just really effective.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So if he's able to put together a season where he plays 13, 14, 15 games this year, maybe he'll find a contract somewhere else. Like you said, who knows if Cam Akers can bounce back from an Achilles injury? There's not really many running backs that you could point to that have come back from that. And I'm wishing him all the best. But there will be available spots for him to go to and for him to contribute. He has to shake the injury stigma. And then it's up to other people whether they believe that he's a product of the system or if he elevates the system. I'm actually in the camp of him elevating Shanahan's system because those gaps are there for anybody. But an outside zone, when he sees that gap, it's a larger gain than it is for anybody else. And then the last point is the 49ers have brought in Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson's still on this roster. Wayne Gallman's there. So they're going to continue to stockpile running backs. And if he unfortunately can't put together a full season, then there's going to be a tough decision for them to make. And then that'll affect him going forward in this league. So yes, he has to put it together. And you're right, the 30-year-old so if 30 is 80 for a cornerback, 30 is 130 for running backs, and that's how they're viewed, right? Unless you're Adrian Peterson, who's just continued to get a job everywhere he goes. But that's how he's going to be viewed across the league. And I would hate to see that because you're right, his career did start later, so he may have way more in the tank. It's not like he's been playing since he was 23 and has played 7 years and gone to 30. He's really only had 3-4 years of actual football. So it's a good point, but yes, he does have to put it together, and he has to show that he can stay on the field because when he's on there, it's very clear at how effective he is and what he brings to this team.
I mean, the Niners are ready to move on. They drafted 2 running backs this year, and he's a free agent next year. It's like, well, one of them will be ready to take your job. We don't know who it's going to be. So, yeah, they're ready to move on. But the thing is, he's not a bell cow, and that's why he wasn't drafted. But most teams use committees now anyway, and I feel like there's such a premium on speed now, almost more than ever, and he's the fastest running back in the league. There are a lot of teams that could find a way to use him in a limited basis, like Kansas City.
Yeah,
I always say,
absolutely.
Imagine him on Kansas City. But seriously, I mean, imagine him on Kansas City in the same offense as Tyreek Hill. Be unfair. So
yeah, and speed is where the game's going. That's why everybody's drafting linebackers who used to be safeties. It's not a fitting game. Like there was somebody on Twitter yesterday that was saying like, oh, that was a terrible thing to bring in Fred Warner, and I'm just like, what on God's earth are you talking about, right? Like, he's a former safety, and what he offers in coverage, he's like, oh, well, if you need him to cover threes That's easy to find. Yeah,
The number 3 receiver in a 3-by-1 set, the most
yeah,
inside guy.
But what if the inside guy is Julio Jones? What if
Yeah.
the inside guy is Marquise Brown? What if the inside guy is like Cooper Kupp? Those aren't like tight ends. So he's able to do that. So that's
Josh Hermsmeyer is very smart, and I was trying to follow along with what he was going with. I just disagree with him, man. First of all, he was saying that like coverage is unpredictable based on like PFF grades. First of all, forget PFF grades. I think you can watch coverage. If you watch the film, you can really see who's good in coverage and who isn't. I really believe that coverage is just as important as pass rush. And he was saying like, well, it is, but only as like a unit, not individual. I disagree. I think what Fred Warner can do in terms of coverage is unique, and you can see it. It's consistent. The other point he said is that linebackers get hurt. That's a good point. Warner doesn't, though. Warner is not. He doesn't lead with his head. He's got good tackling technique. You don't really have to worry about stingers and separated shoulders with him. I don't know, man. It seems like this was a good signing to me.
Of course it was. It's all instincts. It's all what he brings. You know, I could point to the Patriots game, right? The interception that he had. He forced Cam out of the read because he's in front of Julian Edelman, and then he tried to like fit it again, and Fred's right there for the interception. Yeah. That's not something that like he's like, oh, just draft another Fred Warner in the 3rd round. Oh, cool. Fred Warner's. I found a Fred Warner in my couch with my change and everything. No, that's not.
He's saying that like middle linebacker is in a premium position.
I understand that argument,
but this guy, what he does in coverage and the total package makes him a premium player.
So, but I understand that argument.
Yeah,
middle linebackers worth that, but he's not most middle linebackers. It's not like that's my problem with the analytics thing. It's so rigid. There's no black. It's all black and white. There's no color in between. There's
and their attitude is like, okay, well, if we live by this code, we'll get it wrong sometimes, but we'll be right more than
we'll get it. We'll get it right more than we not. But
they may be right in that, but in this case, they're wrong. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fred's different. Fred's different.
Yeah, Fred's different.